Hi guys, quick disclaimer, this video is not designed to diagnose any specific condition. It's merely designed to give advice on maintenance for symptoms experienced when competing in Judo, BJJ or grappling. If you suspect that you've sustained any serious trauma such as a fracture or a tendon rupture, you need to get yourself to A&E immediately and get yourself assessed. It's Paul Grinnell here from the Primary Physio podcast, and I'm back for take 2 with the injury management class that I wanted to do. We initially started last night, but I did it after training, made some mistakes, and found it difficult having done a heavy session, just being able to breathe, let alone talk about injury management. So I'm back here at Turbo MMA with head coach Steve Turbot. Steve's history is 15 years in Jiu-Jitsu, former member of the GB Paralympic squad, and current brown belt in BJJ. So today we are going to be discussing swollen or inflammation at the distal part of the finger. So very, very common in things like Judo, BJJ, Sambo, grappling, no-gi grappling, most grappling sports. More specific in the sports where you are actually having to grip or grab some of the gi, and it's the tension by holding this hook grip. Okay, if you ask anybody that does any rock climbing, this is a very hard grip to train, and essentially this is the grip that we're using when we do use a kind of sleeve grip. So if me and Steve are in a spider guard position, I've got to move forward a bit, Steve. Yep. There we go. So I've got my hook grip in here, and I've got my hands, and I'm working this position here, or I'm doing excessive grips here on the lapel, and Steve starts to break the grips, okay, or if I'm on the sleeve and he breaks the grip, that can cause quite a bit of tension just around the knuckles and the tendons, okay. So there's a lot of strain and stress that goes on. Overexertion or a bit of trauma, as in your opponent breaking the grip, can result in inflammation, and it's the inflammation that is essentially the biggest problem, and it's managing that inflammation. So if you do go to a session and afterwards you come back and you've realized that you've got some swelling around the mid knuckle here, just on the fingers, the first thing you should be doing is icing the joints. So, I mean, if we look at Steve's fingers in comparison to mine, I've been training for just over 5.5 years, and Steve's been training for 15 years. And we can see, if we come in a little bit closer to the camera, there's quite a bit of thickness and swelling around the capsule, right around the knuckle. This will affect your ability to grip, okay? So you need to work and train on this. So if we go back to what I was saying before, if you do go to a session and you come back after a session and you notice that you've got some increased swelling around that particular area, the first thing you should be trying to do is manage the swelling. So what's really important is ice. Then we're going to talk about the massaging technique. So you've iced your hands for 20 minutes or your distal digits. And we're going to use Steve as an example. So this would be great for BJJ guys, Judo guys, but boxers as well really respond well to this. Okay, so first of all, imagine the tape wasn't there. So we got no tape on his fingers. We're going to work on this one initially to begin with. Okay, you support the joint. Now you can do this with your opposite hand, but I'm going to do it for demonstration purposes on Steve. A little bit of moisturizer or olive oil, something to create a barrier so you reduce friction. And then all you do is you start pushing the swelling, okay? We always move distally back, all right, proximally, distal to proximal, back to the heart, letting the lymphatic system absorb all of the swelling. We push over the joint and the capsule, and we push laterally, okay? And from doing a few techniques, just mobilizing that swelling a few times, we can then passively take the finger into a stretch. We could take it into a stretch a little bit further up, and then I would get Steve to squeeze his hand and relax and see if it made a difference, and then get him to keep working on that for about 15 to 20 minutes. Once he's done that, I would then issue him with some squeezing or gripping exercises. So this is just a rubber ring, but essentially it offers Steve a little bit of resistance. Method of controlling this. So zinc oxide tape is really helpful. Okay, so I would recommend, as a physio's perspective, try doing a session with your hands taped, and then do a session without your hands taped, and see what the difference is. Now, Steve talked about it. This is a really good piece of kit to have in your in your kit bag. The only problem is this is slightly too big at the moment, but you still can use it, okay? You just have to rip it down and break it down so it's even smaller. So I've taken 2 pieces and I've just made them a little bit smaller. If you are going to tape your fingers, so if you use Steve's hand for example, we can see on his 3rd digit here, he's got some swelling around the knuckle. Now we want to support the joint. Now what's really important is you always tape above and below the joint. So if I'm coming in here, I'm running the tape just slightly below. Okay, now you can apply the first stirrup at the bottom and then you can apply the second one. Just leave that little bit hanging, Steve. And the second one at the top. When you put tape on, do not put it tight. Just let the tape naturally work its way around the finger. Leave that little bit. Now, we've got a couple of little stragglers at the end. We're going to secure those in a minute because we're going to do a crisscross technique. Whenever you do a crisscross technique, never do it across the knuckle joint where the knuckle bends or the knuckle of the finger bends, okay? Always do it underneath, all right? If you cross over at the top, you won't be able to make a grip and you'll mechanically restrict yourself. So what we're going to do, if you hold your hand up, I'm going to go across, I'm going to come around, and then from this one, got all confused, keep your finger up from me. I'm going to go across that way and finish there. Okay, so I've got a crisscross technique essentially above and below. And then if you look at it from the outside, Steve just looks like he's got 2 bars on his fingers. This works really well as when Steve's gripping because of the nature of the tape. It creates a little bit more of a surface friction on the actual gi. So when he is grabbing something, okay, the sweat from his fingers is less likely to move, okay? So these have been the quick tips on managing distal swelling of the fingers in BJJ, Judo and other types of grappling. Hope you enjoyed. Any questions, DM me on social media or leave a comment on the YouTube page and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot.